Have you ever noticed that some people seem to move through life as if everything falls perfectly into place? Opportunities appear almost effortlessly. The right conversations happen at exactly the right time. Unexpected blessings show up when they need them most. Even when challenges arise, they somehow emerge stronger, wiser, and often better off than before. Watching people like this can make you wonder if they were simply born lucky, if they have some secret advantage that the rest of the world doesn't know about. But what if luck isn't the real reason? What if the greatest difference between people who constantly struggle and those who consistently thrive isn't found in their circumstances, their education, or even the amount of money they have? What if the real difference begins somewhere far deeper, somewhere invisible to everyone else? It begins with what they expect. The quiet assumptions they carry every single day become the foundation upon which they build their lives. Long before the results appear on the outside, they have already accepted a certain reality on the inside. They have made peace with the idea that life supports them. They trust that somehow, even when they cannot see the entire path, everything is moving in the right direction. Now imagine what would happen if you adopted that same expectation. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning without the familiar weight of uncertainty resting on your shoulders. Instead of wondering what might go wrong today, you simply expect things to unfold in your favor. Before your feet even touch the floor, you remind yourself that today holds opportunities you haven't seen yet. Somewhere, someone is about to say yes. Somewhere, an answer you've been waiting for is making its way toward you. Somewhere, a door you didn't even know existed is quietly opening. Notice how different that feels. Nothing in the outside world has changed yet. Your bank account is still the same. Your job is still the same. Your home is still the same. Your responsibilities are still waiting for you. Yet something within you has shifted, and that invisible shift is more powerful than most people ever realize. The world often convinces us that we must first see proof before we believe. We're taught that confidence should come after success. That peace should arrive after every problem has been solved. That certainty should only exist when all the answers are visible. But life rarely works that way. Think back to every meaningful achievement you've ever accomplished. Before it became reality, there was a moment when nothing existed except your belief that it could happen. Every great invention, every successful business, every loving relationship, every beautiful home, every fulfilled dream once lived only in someone's imagination. There was no visible evidence at first, only an inner conviction that refused to disappear. That conviction changed everything. Now consider how many times fear has done exactly the opposite. Perhaps you've spent hours worrying about something that never actually happened. Maybe you imagined difficult conversations that turned out to be surprisingly peaceful. Maybe you expected rejection only to discover acceptance waiting on the other side. Perhaps you lost sleep over possibilities that never became reality. Fear has a remarkable ability to convince us that imagined problems are already real. And while we cannot always control what happens around us, we have far more influence over what happens within us than we've been led to believe. The quality of your expectations shapes the quality of your experience. Think about someone learning to ride a bicycle. If they climb onto the bike believing they're guaranteed to crash, their entire body becomes tense. Their hands grip the handlebars too tightly. Their movements become stiff. Every tiny wobble feels like confirmation that disaster is coming. Their fear actually makes balancing more difficult. Now imagine another person climbing onto the same bicycle with curiosity instead of fear. They expect to learn. They understand that small mistakes are simply part of the process. They laugh when they wobble. They get back up after they fall because they assume improvement is inevitable. Which person is more likely to succeed? Not because they are naturally more talented, not because life treats them differently, but because their expectation influences every decision they make. Life constantly mirrors this principle. Every day, countless people unknowingly rehearse disappointment before anything has even happened. They wake up expecting traffic. They expect criticism. They expect stress. They expect people to ignore them. They expect bills they cannot afford. They expect failure before beginning. Then, when life reflects pieces of those expectations, they call it reality. But was it reality? Or was it simply the continuation of an internal story that had been repeated so many times it became familiar? Our minds are extraordinary storytellers. If we're not careful, they begin writing tomorrow's story using yesterday's disappointments. A single failure becomes, nothing ever works for me. Or one difficult relationship becomes, everyone eventually leaves. Or one financial setback becomes, I'll always struggle. One rejection becomes, I'm not good enough. Without realizing it, temporary experiences become permanent identities. And identities shape behavior. Behavior shapes results. Results reinforce identity. The cycle continues until someone decides to interrupt it. Today can be that interruption. Imagine carrying yourself through life with one simple assumption: everything is always working out for me. Not because every moment feels perfect. Not because difficulties never appear, but because you trust that every experience is somehow contributing to your highest good. Think of a traveler climbing a mountain. Halfway up, thick clouds roll in. The path becomes difficult. The summit disappears from view. If the traveler judged the entire journey based only on that moment, they might believe they were completely lost. But someone standing high above the mountain sees something entirely different. They see that the trail never disappeared. The summit never moved. The clouds are only temporary. Many of us spend our lives making permanent conclusions during temporary storms. Just because you cannot see the destination doesn't mean it no longer exists. Just because progress feels slow doesn't mean progress has stopped. Sometimes growth happens silently. Consider how a seed grows beneath the ground. For weeks, nothing appears on the surface. Someone looking only at the soil might believe nothing is happening. But beneath that quiet surface, life is unfolding in remarkable ways. Roots are expanding, strength is developing, preparation is taking place. Then one day what was invisible suddenly becomes visible. Your life often unfolds in exactly the same way. Not every breakthrough announces itself with fireworks. Some arrive quietly after long seasons of invisible preparation. This is why your inner expectation matters so much. If you dig up the seed every day because you doubt it's growing, you interrupt the process. Likewise, constant worry, constant fear, and constant second guessing pull your attention away from trust and into resistance. Trust allows you to remain steady while life unfolds. Have you ever noticed how peaceful certain people seem even when facing uncertainty? It's not because they know exactly what tomorrow holds. No one does. It's because they have developed a deeper confidence. They've stopped demanding immediate evidence before allowing themselves to feel hopeful. They've learned that peace is not the reward at the end of the journey. Peace can become the way they travel. Imagine entering every day from that place. Your phone rings. Instead of assuming bad news, you wonder what wonderful surprise might be waiting. An unexpected delay happens. Instead of becoming frustrated, you quietly think, perhaps this is protecting me from something I cannot yet see. Someone cancels plans. Instead of taking it personally, you remain open to the possibility that something better is about to fill that space. Notice what changes. Your emotional energy becomes lighter. You stop fighting every little inconvenience. You stop interpreting every temporary obstacle as proof that life is against you. Instead, you begin cooperating with life, and cooperation creates peace. This doesn't mean pretending difficulties don't exist. It doesn't mean ignoring responsibilities. It doesn't mean refusing to solve problems. It simply means refusing to surrender your inner certainty every time circumstances fluctuate. Because circumstances always change. Today's challenge becomes tomorrow's lesson. Today's disappointment becomes next year's blessing. Today's ending becomes tomorrow's beginning. Life has a remarkable way of connecting events that only make sense in hindsight. Think about moments that once felt devastating. Perhaps you didn't get the opportunity you desperately wanted. Months later, you realize that missing it opened the door to something far greater. Perhaps someone walked out of your life. At the time, it felt unbearable. Later, you met people who brought more love, respect, and joy than you ever imagined possible. Perhaps your plans completely fell apart. Looking back, you now recognize that those unexpected changes guided you toward a better path. At the time, none of it made sense. Yet eventually, the pieces came together. What if that's happening right now? What if this current chapter is arranging future blessings that your present perspective simply cannot see? How differently would you live if you truly believed that? Would you still panic over every delay? Would you still lose sleep over every uncertainty? Or would you begin relaxing into the understanding that life often knows more than your immediate circumstances reveal? Imagine walking through life with quiet confidence rather than constant urgency. You no longer chase every opportunity out of fear that another will never come. You no longer cling desperately to people who are meant to leave. You no longer believe one setback defines your future. Instead, you carry an unshakable knowing that what belongs in your life cannot permanently miss you. That belief changes how you speak. It changes how you make decisions. It changes the energy you bring into every room. People naturally feel the difference. Confidence without arrogance, peace without passivity, hope without desperation. These qualities become magnetic because they communicate trust. And trust has incredible power. So today, before anything changes around you, allow something to change within you. Choose a different expectation. Instead of assuming life is a battle, begin seeing it as a partnership. Instead of preparing for disappointment, prepare for possibility. Instead of rehearsing fear, rehearse faith in the unseen unfolding of your journey. You don't need every answer before you begin trusting. You don't need every piece of evidence before believing that good things are making their way toward you. You only need the willingness to adopt one new assumption. That life is not happening against you. It is happening with you. It is guiding you. It is shaping you. It is preparing you. And even when the path seems uncertain, even when you cannot understand every twist and turn, even when circumstances temporarily suggest otherwise, you quietly return to one simple truth that becomes stronger every day you repeat it. Everything is working together for your good. Everything is leading somewhere meaningful. Everything is unfolding exactly as it needs to. And somehow, in ways you may not yet understand, everything is already working out for you. From this moment forward, make a decision that will quietly transform the direction of your life. Stop asking yourself, what if everything goes wrong? Instead, begin asking a far more powerful question. What if everything is already working in my favor? At first, your mind may resist this idea. It has been trained for years to search for problems before possibilities. It believes that expecting the worst somehow protects you from disappointment. It whispers that being cautious is being realistic. But if expecting the worst truly protected people, then those who worry the most would also be the happiest, the healthiest, and the most successful. Yet we know that isn't true. Constant worry rarely prepares you for tomorrow. More often, it steals today. Think about how much time people spend imagining outcomes they never actually experience. They replay conversations that haven't happened yet. They picture failures before taking the first step. They create entire stories about rejection, loss, and disappointment, even though none of those stories exist outside their own minds. The imagination is incredibly powerful. The question is not whether you are using it. The question is whether you are using it for yourself or against yourself. Every day your mind is painting pictures. It is creating scenes. It is rehearsing emotional experiences before they happen. If those scenes are filled with fear, your body begins reacting as though those fears are already real. Your heart races, your muscles tighten, your confidence shrinks. Not because anything terrible has happened, but because your imagination has convinced you that it already has. Now imagine directing that same creative power in a completely different direction. Instead of imagining rejection, imagine acceptance. Instead of imagining failure, imagine progress. Instead of imagining obstacles, imagine unexpected solutions appearing exactly when you need them. Nothing has changed outside of you, yet everything begins changing within you, and your inner state influences the way you experience the world around you. Picture someone walking into a job interview. One person silently repeats, "They're probably not going to choose me. I'm not experienced enough. Someone else is better." Even if they smile, those hidden beliefs influence their posture, their voice, their eye contact, and their confidence. Now picture another person entering the exact same interview. Before walking through the door, they quietly remind themselves, "The right opportunity is already mine. I have something valuable to offer. If this position belongs in my life, everything will unfold naturally." Notice the difference. The second person isn't pretending to know the outcome. They're simply refusing to let fear determine how they show up. Their calm becomes their strength. Their confidence becomes noticeable. Their peace allows their authentic personality to emerge. Whether they receive that specific position or something even better, they leave knowing life continues working in their favor. That mindset creates freedom. Freedom from desperation. Freedom from constant self-doubt. Freedom from believing every opportunity determines your worth. Life becomes lighter when you stop attaching your identity to temporary outcomes. Consider an archer aiming at a target. The arrow is released. The moment it leaves the bow, there is no benefit in chasing after it. The work has already been done. Now the archer trusts the process. Yet many people release their dreams only to immediately begin chasing them with fear. They question every step. They doubt every possibility. They wonder if they should give up before anything has even had time to unfold. Trust means allowing room for life to work. It means understanding that not everything valuable happens instantly. Nature itself teaches patience. A fruit tree does not bear fruit the same day it is planted. The ocean does not rush its waves. The sunrise never arrives early because someone is impatient. Everything meaningful unfolds according to its own perfect rhythm. Your dreams deserve that same trust. Imagine standing in front of a giant puzzle with thousands of pieces. You hold only one small piece in your hand. From your perspective, nothing makes sense. The colors seem random. The shapes appear disconnected. But someone standing above the completed puzzle sees the full picture. They know exactly where your piece belongs. Life often feels confusing because we judge the entire picture while holding only one piece. We mistake temporary confusion for permanent failure. We assume missing information means something has gone wrong. But what if it simply means the picture isn't finished yet? How many times have you looked back on your life and realized events connected in ways you never expected? Perhaps missing one opportunity introduced you to someone who completely changed your future. Perhaps one unexpected delay prevented a much larger problem. Perhaps one disappointment developed strengths you never would have gained otherwise. Looking backward, the connections become clear. Looking forward, they often remain hidden. That is why trust matters. Trust is not pretending you understand everything. Trust is remaining peaceful even when you don't. There is incredible strength in saying, I don't know exactly how this will unfold, but I believe it is unfolding well. That sentence removes enormous pressure from your shoulders. You no longer feel responsible for controlling every detail. Instead, you focus on becoming the person who is ready to receive what life is bringing. Think about a radio. The station has been broadcasting music all along. If your radio is tuned to static, you don't blame the station. You simply adjust the frequency. Your mind works similarly. When you constantly tune yourself to fear, doubt, criticism, and worst-case scenarios, those become the experiences that dominate your awareness. But the moment you begin tuning yourself toward possibility, gratitude, confidence, and expectation, you begin noticing opportunities that were always present. Have you ever decided to buy a certain car and suddenly started seeing that model everywhere? The cars didn't suddenly appear. Your awareness changed. The same thing happens with opportunities. The same thing happens with kindness. The same thing happens with abundance. You begin noticing what you have prepared yourself to recognize. Imagine two people walking through the same city. One believes people are selfish. The other believes people are kind. Both encounter hundreds of individuals throughout the day. Guess what happens? Each finds evidence supporting their belief. The first notices rude drivers, impatient customers, and negative conversations. The second notices smiling strangers, helpful employees, friendly neighbors, and unexpected acts of generosity. The city didn't change. Their focus did. Life constantly reflects where attention rests. This is why asking, "What if everything is already working in my favor?" is such a transformative question. It directs your attention toward possibility instead of limitation. It encourages curiosity instead of fear. It opens your mind to solutions you previously ignored. Suppose you're waiting for an important phone call. Hours pass, nothing happens. Your old pattern immediately begins speaking. They forgot. It's probably bad news. I'm being rejected. But instead of following that familiar path, you pause. You smile. You breathe deeply. You remind yourself, what if this delay is actually arranging the perfect outcome? Suddenly your emotional state changes. You no longer spend the day trapped inside imaginary problems. You remain available for joy. You remain productive. You remain open. Perhaps the call arrives later with wonderful news. Perhaps it leads somewhere unexpected. Or perhaps another opportunity appears that completely surpasses the original one. The important change happened long before the phone rang. It happened inside you. You refuse to surrender your peace to uncertainty. That is real power. Anyone can remain positive after receiving good news. The deeper strength is remaining hopeful before the evidence appears. Think about walking through a dense forest. At times the trees become so thick that you cannot see more than a few steps ahead. If you judged your journey based only on what was immediately visible, you might believe there was no path at all. Yet someone looking from above would clearly see the trail winding all the way through the forest. Life often feels like walking through that forest. You don't need to see the entire journey. You only need enough light for your next step. Every step reveals another. Every decision creates new possibilities. Every moment of trust opens another door. Imagine carrying this perspective into every area of your life. You begin a new business. Instead of obsessing over every obstacle, you expect creative ideas to arrive. You start learning a new skill. Instead of criticizing slow progress, you trust that mastery develops through consistency. You begin exercising. Instead of becoming discouraged by small setbacks, you celebrate every improvement. You enter new friendships. Instead of fearing rejection, you appreciate authentic connection. In every situation, your question changes. Not, what if I fail? But, what wonderful outcome is making its way toward me? Notice how that question feels. It expands you. It fills your mind with possibility. It invites creativity. It allows hope to replace hesitation. And hope influences action. People often underestimate how much their emotional state shapes their daily decisions. Someone living in fear hesitates. Someone living in trust moves forward. Someone expecting disappointment avoids risks. Someone expecting growth embraces opportunities. Over weeks, months, and years, those small choices create dramatically different lives. No dramatic miracle is required, only a different way of seeing. Picture yourself boarding an airplane. You rarely ask to inspect every bolt holding the wings together. You don't demand to meet every engineer. You trust the process because countless successful flights have occurred before yours. Now imagine extending that same kind of trust toward life itself. Not blind optimism, not pretending difficulties never exist, but a quiet confidence that there is an intelligence unfolding beyond what your current eyes can see. A confidence that says, I will continue moving forward. I will continue believing. I will continue expecting good, because expectation influences experience. Each morning gives you a choice. You can begin the day carrying yesterday's fears, or you can begin the day carrying tomorrow's possibilities. You can rehearse disappointment, or you can rehearse success. You can assume life is working against you, or you can assume that even the things you don't yet understand are quietly arranging themselves for your benefit. The beautiful thing about this decision is that no one else has to approve it. No special permission is required. No perfect circumstances are necessary. You simply choose. You choose what kind of story you will tell yourself. You choose what kind of future you will rehearse in your imagination. You choose what kind of expectation you will carry into today. And as you repeatedly choose thoughts that strengthen rather than weaken you, something remarkable begins to happen. Your confidence becomes steadier. Your reactions become calmer. Your perspective becomes broader. Opportunities become easier to recognize. Solutions appear where problems once seemed permanent. Not because the world suddenly became different overnight, but because you became different within it. So from this moment forward, whenever uncertainty tries to pull you back into fear, gently interrupt that pattern. Ask yourself one powerful question. What if everything is already working in my favor? Let your heart rest in that possibility. Let your mind become familiar with that expectation. Carry it into every conversation. Carry it into every challenge. Carry it into every dream. Because the life you experience tomorrow begins with the assumptions you choose to accept today. And perhaps the greatest assumption you can ever make is this: everything that is unfolding is quietly leading me towards something greater than I can currently imagine. Think about how different your entire life would feel if you truly believed, with every part of your being, that every delay was leading you to something better, every setback was quietly redirecting you toward a greater opportunity, and every closed door was protecting you from accepting less than you deserve. Imagine carrying that belief with you every single day, not as an occasional positive thought, but as the foundation of the way you see the world. Most people experience a delay and immediately assume something has gone wrong. A message isn't answered quickly, and they begin imagining rejection. A plan changes unexpectedly, and they assume failure is waiting. A promotion doesn't happen when they expected, and they decide they have been overlooked. A relationship becomes difficult, and they convince themselves that happiness is slipping away. What they don't realize is that they are creating conclusions long before the story has reached its ending. Life is much like reading the first few chapters of a book. and deciding you already know how it ends. You wouldn't do that with a novel because you understand there are twists, unexpected turns, moments of tension, and surprising resolutions waiting ahead. Yet many people do exactly that with their own lives. One difficult chapter convinces them the entire story is ruined, but a single chapter has never defined an entire book. There is a quiet wisdom in understanding that life often reveals its greatest blessings through situations that first appear disappointing. Imagine you're waiting to catch a train. You arrive at the station just as the doors close. The train pulls away, leaving you standing there in frustration. Your first reaction might be disappointment. You may think, why does this always happen to me? You might feel as though the entire day has already gone wrong. But imagine that a few minutes later, you strike up a conversation with someone else waiting for the next train. That conversation leads to an opportunity you never expected. Perhaps it introduces you to a lifelong friend. Perhaps it opens the door to a career you've been searching for. Perhaps it inspires an idea that changes the direction of your future. Looking back, missing the train was never the problem. It became the beginning of something far better. Life contains countless moments like this. The difficulty is that while we're standing inside the delay, we rarely have enough perspective to understand what it is making possible. We judge today's circumstances without seeing tomorrow's connections. Think about a sculptor standing in front of a block of marble. To someone passing by, it may seem like the sculptor is destroying the stone. Large pieces are being chipped away. Dust fills the air. Sharp tools strike the surface over and over again. Nothing about the process looks gentle. Yet the sculptor isn't ruining the marble. They are revealing what has always been hidden inside it. Many experiences in your own life work the same way. Certain events remove what no longer belongs: old beliefs, unhealthy habits, relationships that limit your growth, dreams that were too small for the person you're becoming. At the time, it may feel like something valuable is being taken away, but often space is simply being created for something greater. Imagine trying to fill a cup that is already overflowing. No matter how much fresh water you pour in, it spills over the sides. The cup must first be emptied before it can receive something new. Sometimes life gently empties parts of our lives we have become too comfortable holding on to, not to punish us, but to prepare us. Preparation rarely feels exciting while it is happening. Consider an athlete training for an important competition. Long before anyone applauds their success, they spend countless mornings waking before sunrise. They endure exhaustion. They repeat simple exercises thousands of times. Progress seems almost invisible from one day to the next. If someone judged the process halfway through, they might say nothing remarkable was happening. Yet every workout was building strength that would later become visible. Growth often happens quietly before it becomes obvious. Your own life follows this same rhythm. There are seasons when everything seems to move quickly. Then there are seasons when nothing appears to change at all. During those slower seasons, people often lose hope. They believe they have been forgotten. They compare themselves to others. They wonder if they missed their chance. But what if those slower seasons are not empty? What if they are the very moments when your deepest foundations are being strengthened? Think about the roots of a giant oak tree. Most people admire the branches stretching toward the sky. They appreciate the beauty of the leaves. They enjoy the shade the tree provides. Very few people stop to think about what is happening beneath the ground. The stronger the roots become, the greater the tree can eventually grow. Without deep roots, even a beautiful tree cannot survive strong winds. Life often strengthens your roots before it increases your visibility. Patience becomes strength, faith becomes stability. Character becomes your foundation. These invisible qualities eventually support visible success. Imagine receiving every dream you ever wanted before developing the wisdom to handle it. Would it truly be a blessing? Or would it become overwhelming? Sometimes timing itself is the blessing. Not because you are being denied, but because you are becoming ready. Think back to something you wanted years ago. Perhaps a relationship, perhaps a job, perhaps a certain lifestyle. Looking at who you are today, you may realize you are not yet prepared for it. The person you have become now could handle it differently. You would appreciate it more. You would protect it better. You would approach it with greater maturity. What once felt like rejection may actually have been preparation. This understanding changes how you interpret delays. Instead of asking, "Why isn't this happening yet?" you begin asking, What qualities am I developing while I wait? That question transforms waiting from frustration into purpose. Waiting no longer feels empty, it becomes meaningful. Imagine baking a loaf of bread. Halfway through the baking process, someone becomes impatient. They remove it from the oven early because they cannot wait any longer. From the outside, it may look finished, but inside it remains uncooked. The timing mattered. Removing it too early ruined the result. Many people become impatient with their own lives. They want immediate answers, immediate success, immediate certainty. Yet some things cannot be rushed. Their value comes from unfolding naturally. A flower does not bloom because someone demands it. It blooms when the season is right. Imagine if flowers compared themselves to one another. One blooms in early spring, another waits until summer. The second flower might believe something is wrong. It sees others already flourishing while it remains closed. But when its season arrives, it blossoms exactly as it was designed to. People often make the mistake of comparing seasons. Someone else's breakthrough is not evidence that your opportunity has disappeared. Their timing is not your timing. Their path is not your path. There is room for every dream to unfold in its proper season. Comparison steals peace because it shifts your attention away from your own journey. Instead of appreciating how far you've come, you become distracted by someone else's timeline. But your life was never meant to be lived according to another person's calendar. Imagine standing at the shoreline watching waves reach the beach. Some arrive quickly, others take longer, yet every wave eventually reaches the shore. None become jealous of another, none race to arrive first. Each follows its own rhythm. Life invites you to do the same. Trust your rhythm. Trust your unfolding. Trust that what belongs to you is not delayed by someone else's success. Another powerful truth is that closed doors often save us from lives we were never meant to live. Think about how often people desperately hold on to situations that quietly drain their joy. A job they have already outgrown. A relationship that no longer reflects mutual respect. A dream that no longer matches who they are becoming. When those doors close, it feels painful. Not because what was behind the door was truly best for them, but because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. The familiar often feels safer than the unknown. Yet some of the greatest transformations begin the moment familiar doors close. Imagine climbing a staircase. Each step requires leaving the previous one behind. If you insisted on keeping both feet on the same step forever, you would never reach the next level. Growth always asks us to release something before receiving something greater. That release is rarely easy, but it is often necessary. Life understands this better than we do. Sometimes we cling to plans simply because we invested time in them. We convince ourselves we must continue because we've already come this far. Yet wisdom knows that staying somewhere simply because it is familiar can prevent us from discovering what is possible. Imagine sailing across the ocean. The wind suddenly changes direction. An inexperienced sailor might become angry. This wind is ruining my journey. An experienced sailor adjusts the sails. They understand that different winds simply require different responses. The destination remains possible, only the approach changes. Life constantly invites us to adjust our sails instead of abandoning our dreams. Flexibility is not weakness, it is wisdom. The strongest trees bend during powerful storms. Rigid branches often break. Likewise, people who trust life remain flexible. They adapt, they learn, they continue moving forward. They understand that temporary changes do not erase permanent possibilities. Think about how children build sandcastles at the beach. They spend hours creating something beautiful. Eventually a wave arrives and washes it away. A child may feel disappointed for a moment, but then something remarkable happens. They smile. They begin building again. They don't conclude they should never build another castle. They don't decide the beach is against them. They simply create something new. Somewhere along the way, many adults lose that resilience. Instead of beginning again, they begin doubting themselves. Instead of rebuilding, they surrender to discouragement. Yet the ability to begin again is one of life's greatest gifts. No delay can take that from you. No closed door can remove it. No temporary setback can erase your capacity to create something beautiful once more. Every experience carries hidden lessons. Every challenge develops qualities you will someday be grateful for. Every disappointment contains information that guides you towards something more aligned with your purpose. Perhaps not immediately, perhaps not obviously, but eventually, one day you will look back and realize that the delay taught patience, the setback taught resilience, the uncertainty taught trust. The closed door redirected you toward a life more fulfilling than the one you originally imagined. Until that day arrives, choose to trust what you cannot yet understand. Choose to believe that every event is contributing to something larger than your current perspective can fully see. Allow yourself to release the habit of interpreting every inconvenience as failure. Allow yourself to stop labeling every delay as rejection. Allow yourself to stop fearing every ending, because endings often become beginnings in disguise. The path ahead may not always unfold according to your schedule. It may surprise you, it may challenge you, it may ask you to grow in ways you never expected. But growth is not evidence that life has forgotten you. Growth is evidence that life is preparing you. So whenever something doesn't happen according to your plan, resist the urge to assume the worst. Pause. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself that there may be pieces of the picture you cannot yet see. Remember that delays often become blessings. Setbacks often become redirections. Closed doors often become protection. And the very moment that tempts you to lose faith may become the moment that quietly changes your entire future for the better. Carry that understanding with you wherever you go. Let it become stronger than fear. Let it become louder than doubt. Because when you truly believe that every experience is leading you towards something greater, you stop resisting the journey and begin walking through life with peace, confidence, and the quiet certainty that everything is unfolding exactly as it should.